Only on the RotoRadar podcast. My name is Joshua Riemer, and it is not a member-only podcast. It's a free podcast. How are you doing, Jared? How is your Thursday going?
Doing well. Just sweating out the end of this Orioles and A's game. It's been a lot of fun to watch so far. Adley Rutschman literally has missed 2 home runs today by a combined less than 10 feet, so it's been fun to sweat that out. But yeah, again, another really nice day of weather and really small slate of games to talk about, so let's go get into it.
Yes, sir. Really small slate, only 5 games, but a good 5 games to talk about. I'm excited to do so with you. So let's get into it. Let's start talking about it.
All right. Let's go ahead and start with the first game here. It's going to be the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds. Right now, the Phillies are coming in as a plus 110 moneyline underdog. The Reds behind Nick Lodolo, minus 130 at home. 9 is the total here. One of the higher totals. We're going to have quite a few decently high totals today on this small slate, so at least we have that to go off of here to start things off. Let's talk about this Phillies team and Falter first, who's going to be starting for this team today. Over the last year or so, Falter, we know, has an xFIP of 4.83. The K rate's around 20%. We know that he gives up hard contact to the right-hand side of the plate a little bit more. The ISO definitely trending in that direction as well to that handedness at 0.228. This Phillies team is going to load up with some righties today. And I think that the Cincinnati team is going to line up with a lot of righties today. And I think that this is a spot where, there's going to be a lot of teams or a lot of people concentrated on some, big powerhouse teams today, like the Blue Jays, Cardinals, even the Padres. But I think that, there's something to say about this Reds team.
Yeah, as long as you can find some guys that can have that low ground ball rate, I don't mind it. I think it's a good spot. You're in Great American Small Park, so you're in one of the most hitter-friendly environments that you can be. I think Tyler Stevenson has some upside here. I like the play there. I wouldn't mind going to a guy like Kevin Newman based on where he's in the lineup. Jonathan India, another guy that could be a potential candidate, though his ground ball rate's pretty high. You're looking for that low ground ball rate against Falter. I feel like if you can find that, then you can feel pretty comfortable with the play. And I'm just looking for some guys who can launch the ball and go yard.
Yep, exactly. All right. I think that, like I said, I think that the Reds are a team that, while it's not the sexiest play, and never really will be this year, they will definitely be guys that I think you should have the ability to get access to if you want to be a little bit different in your tournament builds and stuff like that. But are you looking for any? I know we can discuss props here, but is that something that's gonna actually be a conversation for you? I guess we'll go over Philly for the Philly bats first and Lodolo before we do that. But is this something that you're gonna actually look into?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not really all that interested in these bats. I think they're okay. I'm not all interested in these props and in the bats on the Philly side. It's kind of tough to find something you really like here. They didn't give us a lot of red stuff, at least on Prize Picks, so maybe that's changed since I streamed. But I don't know. This Lodolo spot, though, really good. Probably top pitcher of the day, in all honesty. It's hard to argue against it. There's not a lot of guys that qualify. It's a very small slate. Not a lot of great pitching on this slate. So I like this Lodolo spot. I mean, the K upside has been there so far this season. He's had a really good ground ball rate. The xFIP's at 2.15, and they're even going to slot in some lefties at the top of this lineup to kind of reduce the efficiency of this lineup overall. So I could see Lodolo having a really good outing here.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to this yet, so I guess we'll get to it now. Today's pitching slate, not the greatest for 5 games,
Yeah.
to say the least. I think that people will take a gamble on a certain guy here in a little bit. But I think that Nick Lodolo, if you have the money today, seems like a guy that's going to bring you Ks, and you can't necessarily say the same thing for a lot of these guys on this board.
Yep, completely agree.
So, yep, again, Ks are king, and that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, I guess to talk about the Phillies, I don't have much interest. I guess something that I noted here that is at least somewhat mentionable. You're going to have Bryson Stott lead off today, I believe is what the new lineup just said. So that's at least somewhat interesting if you want to, get a cheap leadoff hitter there. But other than that, I mean, I'm not like super. I don't really want to get out of my way to go that direction.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, prop time. I think that the only thing I really wanted to just discuss with you is anything related to Lodolo. The pitch count numbers through the roof today at 101 on Underdog, but the strikeout number seems to be the same on both. It's 7.5 today, so I think that's something we can take a look at.
Yeah, I like the Lodolo K prop. He's going up against his Philly team. He just had 12 Ks against them. They should see him a little bit better the second time around, but even with that, I mean, 12 strikeouts, he should get over 7.5. Probably a part where I would have some hesitancy is going to that fantasy score of 41.5. I think you might struggle to get that today. But I could see 7.5 pitcher strikeouts. Kind of a similar conversation to what we talked about Kershaw last night, where you could see him go 5 innings and have 8 Ks. I don't think you can necessarily bank on as much that he'll go 6 innings and get the win as well.
Same thing kind of happened with Strider last night. I know he pushed,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, he kind of got lost early, and that was kind of the difference. So he didn't get there. But I mean, the strikeouts ended up getting really, really close. So yeah, I think that this is a solid spot for him. And again, just to kind of loop this back into DFS, is really not anybody that you want to necessarily trust on either site, honestly. That's has the K upside that Lodolo brings to the table. We can talk about, because we're going to have to roster an SP2 today, so we'll talk about how we can do that to get there, but Falter's not going to be that guy. So let's go ahead and move on and talk about the next game on the board.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about this next game.
Minnesota and New York right now. The Twins come in as a plus 116 underdog on the road behind Joe Ryan. Brito for the Yankees minus 134 at home. 8.5 is the total here. Weather report for this game, 87 degrees at first pitch with temperatures in the 90s to start out. The wind's going to be blowing out to left at 10 to 12 miles an hour, so really fun environment for these bats here. You have Joe Ryan as like the only, or one of the only options monetarily priced on both FanDuel and DraftKings that's close enough to Lodolo. Just seems like a nasty spot, both team matchup wise and the weather. Just sounds like a disaster spot for Joe Ryan.
Yeah, I agree. Going up against this Yankees team is going to be tough. Lots of good sluggers on this team, especially against right-handed pitching. So I have no interest in Joe Ryan in terms of pitching. I have a lot of, you were talking about this SP2 conversation and moving over to Brito. I kind of like the Brito spot when it comes to SP2 today.
Yeah, I mean, he's 7,700. Again, the guy that I'm alluding to is Chris Bassett, so we'll talk about him as somebody who people may take a gamble on today. But yeah, I think Brito brought his stuff to the table and so far has looked extremely competent through the first 2 starts here. And against a really, I respect Baltimore enough now to where I think that, the fact that he was able to get 10 ground ball outs is something that I think we should take a look at. I understand that the K's maybe took a dip when you're looking from San Francisco to Baltimore here, but I think that, this Twins team doesn't rank super high for me today. If I were to gamble on one team over the other in terms of wanting more exposure, it'd be on this Yankees team. So that's where I go with that. So yeah, I think that there's, if we, again, you're gonna have to make a choice that you might not feel the greatest with here. Uh, Seeing as he is the home pitcher with and favored, and we know that he has the ability to get through this lineup, I think that that's, there's not many better cases to be made on this slate. I don't think.
Yeah, just love the ground ball percentage all the way up at 57%. I think the Yankees kind of found their version of a. I'm not going to say Framber Valdez. I feel like I'm overreacting if I say that, but he has like decent enough K stuff. He's a very solid pitcher. The mechanics are very sound. Like he's very solid. Kind of came out of nowhere in the prospects in the organization altogether. But a lot of the Yankees pitcher coaches said that he was going to be something big, and that's what he's been to start out the year. So I like this spot against the Twins. It's a team that has been ice cold against righties. With all the injuries they have, basically the only good hitter so far this season has been Buxton. And then outside of that, they've been pretty shit. Correa's been not batting all that well. And the rest of this team is kind of it's not good. So I like this spot. I think in terms of hitters, the only thing that I would have some interest in is their leadoff man in Julian. Min price on both sites. I could get
Right.
behind Edward. I don't know how to say his first name. But I could get behind
Yeah,
Edward. Yeah, it's kind of weird, an interesting version of Edward. But Edward is a solid option as a min price player. I could see playing Brito on DraftKings and still taking Edward just because of that min price tag.
Yep. I mean, you get the leadoff guy on the road at min price. Even if he walks, it's a good spot.
Yeah.
And it might make your roster work today if you decide to pay up for Lodolo. So that's how that works out. Yeah, let's talk about the other side and talk about these Yankees hitters going up against Joe Ryan. Like we said, not the greatest spot for him. 4.99 xFIP dating back to last year. The K rate's around 25%. Does have good K stuff to righties. So I do think that he's going to end up getting the strikeouts, or at least some in this order. It's just there's equal, if not worse, opportunity for him to give up a lot of damage here. Not a ground ball pitcher, kind of the exact opposite of Brito. Gives up a lot of fly balls, and with the wind being where it is today and the temperatures and the slugging upside of this Yankees team, I could see a lot of deep fly balls just inching over today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I see that coming up. And, we did get confirmation, first of all, that Gleyber Torres is going to play through this injury today, and he's going to be at leadoff. So I think that that's a really solid spot. But I think that you just have to start the conversation with Judge and ask if it's a must play, because it kind of feels like it could be.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a must play. I mean, Ryan's K rate against righties is pretty high. I could see Judge striking out multiple times today. I think the spot's okay, but I just want to save up for those Toronto bats, and you're already paying up for Lodolo, so like how much more money do you have to spend? I'm not sure you have it today. I do like Gleyber though. You mentioned him. I mean, the guy's been a stud against righties. I know that hip was a problem, but it seems like he's going to be okay. Again, the numbers against righties have been insane to start out the year. He looks like everything we've wanted him to be for quite a while now. So I like Gleyber. I like Rizzo too. I think a lefty getting that short porch action against Ryan ain't a bad thing to get. So I like Rizzo as well. And then I don't know how you don't mention Franchi Cordero when you talk about this Yankee lineup. The guy's been an absolute animal recently, and it's just been absolutely a stud. 4 home runs over his past 5 games. I at least have a little bit of interest, even if you just wanted to play him in tournaments. I think the upside's certainly there.
Yeah, it is. And talk about something that Boston fans won't be happy about.
I know. Fun
yeah,
fact, he said he had 3 home runs through his first 6 games as a Yankee, and he had 3 total home runs in his 500 plus at bats with the Red Sox.
Ouch. Okay.
Yeah, ouch indeed.
Yeah, so I think that the Yankees are a team that you can get a little bit of additional exposure to if you're looking to build multiple lineups today on DFS sites. So it's going to be really easy to follow chalk and follow suit with some of the top plays on the slate. I feel like these Yankees are, at least most of them are expensive enough to where you're going to have to make, if you're really going to go out that far, you might as well just go all the way.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Prop time. think we can take a look at some of these plays. I'd be interested in a Judge fantasy number, but it looks like it actually is kind of low on Prize Picks. It's 8.5 today. So that kind of surprised me. I thought he'd be closer to 10.5 like he normally is. So yeah, I don't mind that. I think a lot of these guys are like 5 entry kind of flex plays, not necessarily 2-pick decisions. So Rizzo's fantasy score is pretty cheap as well. At 6.5, that's pretty low. Yeah, I think that there's a lot that can be brought to the table. No Cordero, unfortunately, they don't seem to have him.
Yeah, no Cordero, but Glaber at 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. I certainly don't mind that, and the leadoff spot's pretty solid. You mentioned the Judge number, that's okay. Rizzo at 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, that's not too bad either. Again, you kind of mentioned it, just some 5-pick stuff here, not really anything that like jumps off the board.
Yep, exactly. And this is not a spot to. I don't know. In my opinion, it's not a spot to play Judge total bases. Like if you're looking at underdog or something like that, I think that's just a day where, yeah, I would more often than not love to get Judge fantasy just because of how many times he walks a game.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's get back on track here and go with this next game. The next 3 games are going to feature some of the more potent and powerful offenses on the slate and the spots they're in. So let's go ahead and start with this next one, Detroit and Toronto. Right now, the Tigers are plus 198 behind Spencer Turnbull. Chris Bassett, Blue Jays minus 240 at home. 9.5 is the total. While Bassett's a major favorite here, I think it's more so on the side of the offense for the Blue Jays getting to Spencer Turnbull here, and we should feel pretty confident that this is going to be your number 1 overall stack today, if not top 2. Maybe you can make a case for the Cardinals, but I think it's pretty clear that Toronto is the team that you're going to want to get to today. So let's start there. I think that we've talked about Turnbull last week and talked about how bad of a pitcher he's been. It's not really going to be any different today, and we also got news that the roof's going to be open and it's going to be hot in Toronto. So all this kind of lines up pretty well for these Toronto hitters.
Yeah, I agree. It's not all that hot. I mean, it's in like the mid 70s, but still, open roof is a good thing, without a doubt.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, okay. All relative. It's hot for me.
Is that hot for you? Really? Is it not hotter where you are? It's like 80 here.
Yeah, it's around 75, 80.
Okay, all right. Anyway, that's regardless of the point. Good spot for this Toronto team, and really like them against Spencer Turnbull. He's just been so bad. Again, it comes back to a conversation where it's like, I wish there was more lefties in this line. But I know they got Varsho to kind of try to help this problem. But man, a couple more lefties and we'd be golden here. But I like the Varsho spot. I think Varsho's really solid today. Don't mind going to Vlad, who's been really good at hitting singles recently. Not so good at generating power, though. I think that should change today. I like Bo Bichette and his upside. He's been cranking the ball. Really has had a lot of power recently. So definitely don't mind going there. I cannot believe Chapman got priced up so much. I mean, seeing him at 4,500 is insanity.
Awesome.
He deserves it, clearly. He's been
Yeah.
hitting the crap out of the ball to start the year, but I won't pay the price tag when he's most likely not going to be in the top 4 of this lineup. But lots of guys that I like here. I agree with you. We stayed away from them yesterday. I think at the end of the day, we made the right move. I had a really good take. They only had 1 run through 8 innings and kind of poured it on those last 2, but still 4 runs for the top stack of the slate that I think a lot of people considered them that. It was a good call, in my opinion. So was happy we could stay away from them yesterday, but I think today's the day to jump back on.
Yeah, I have no issues with it. I think this is, like I said, your top overall spot, and I feel like if we find the right prop, which we'll get to soon after we cover the other side, I think that you'll be able to get those in your major entries today. So that's where I would find that, and I think that when it comes to paying up for Chapman, I think you have to make a really weird decision. I think just in general, because like you're basically paying for him just as much as you'd pay for Judge, which is kind of weird to say, but that's where we're at right now. Judge is still more expensive on DraftKings by a wide margin, so you're definitely getting like a positional discount there. But yeah, I think that Chapman, where he's at today in the lineup, like they put him in the 5 hole today, I think it's a really solid spot for him.
Yeah, I certainly don't mind it. Better than the 7 hole where they had him projected at earlier, or where they technically have it on my screen. But yeah, definitely better in the 5 hole than the 7 hole. But that's it for this Toronto team. Let's talk about Detroit.
On this Detroit side, they're going to get Chris Bassett, who, the number kind of is masked 4.35 xFIP from last season, but this season it's all the way up almost at 7. I understand it's still like a 45 plate appearance sample size, but he's looked truly awful to start the year off, and swinging straight rate stuff's down. The K rate is tremendously down, less than 12% to both handedness here. The ground ball stuff is still pretty good to righties, giving up some hard contact there. And, I understand that the ISO to righties is still like in a respectable area, but the lefties, man, they've been just killing them this year. So I know, small sample size, but we normally like to target right-handed pitching against Detroit. And I feel like people, at least on DraftKings, may do it today.
Yeah, they probably will, but I think this is very similar to like a Barrios spot where he came in last year. Everyone thought, oh, that Rangers start was just kind of an anomaly. He'll get better from that. And he just continued to suck throughout the whole year. I think pitching is where Toronto is where pitching goes to die at this point. And maybe I'll regret this.
I was just going to say, maybe they need a better staff.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, because some of these pitching prospects that they've gotten, like, wasn't Ray in there too? Or
yeah.
Not? Maybe not. Yeah. Ray, Kikuchi, Barrios, now Bassett. Like, man, that's not a good track record.
No, not at all. I think Bassett will continue to have struggles even with this Detroit lineup. There's a lot of lefties in it. There's a lot of lefties that can get to him. There's Carpenter, there's Riley, there's even Matone up top, who's at a really good price tag on both sites. Again, another leadoff guy that's near min price and a different position than our other leadoff guy that we just talked about in Edwards. So I don't mind Matone. Like I think I'd rather take bats against Bassett than take Bassett on DraftKings. I think you have a much better option in Brito, who's already shown you success this year, whereas Bassett hasn't shown any reason to trust him really. Say what you will about the Angels start. I guess he did have a decent performance in terms of DFS because he went 6 innings. He had the quality start, but he still really struggled, in my opinion. Like any outing where you give up 5 walks is not a good outing, and I still think there's problems with everything he brings to the table. So I think he'll still. I think there'll still be some struggle spots against this Detroit team.
Right. Yeah, I would agree there. We'll see what the field does. I can't find even on a slate where like you're obviously not doing it on FanDuel, but on a site where you have to have 2 pitchers, I still can't find myself to get here when we only have 10 to choose from.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I think that's a huge pivotal point. Like, I feel like this guy's probably 50+% owned on DraftKings today, so it'll be one of the more pivotal points of the slate. In terms of ownership and leverage, as far as like, I think we can probably go on to props now, and I don't really have much to say about, going and getting Tigers here. Do we have any Matone stuff? No, we don't. No, they're not.
But we have some Riley Green stuff. I like the Riley Green props that we got. Kerry Carpenter got some props at 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Green got 6.5 hitter fantasy score. Considering how much Bassett is walking, I don't mind a fantasy score number here.
Yeah. I can get behind the fantasy score number. Probably don't want to overload yourself too much here because obviously we have to talk about these Blue Jays and the spot that they're in because it's pretty massive. So
definitely.
Yeah, I think that you can take a look at pretty much kind of whatever you want. Unfortunately, they're not going to give us much Chapman to sort through here. But I think that you can kind of do not whatever you like, but I think you can find some really, really solid, strong plays here. Chapman's, I'll have to refresh my page, but it's currently grayed out for Chapman at 11 fantasy points on Underdog. That's probably not a spot I can get behind.
Yeah, probably not. They don't even give you the option on Prize Picks. They're only giving you half a run there. Same for Varsho, only half a run, which is a little disappointing. Don't mind Bo Bichette. I got him at 7.5 hitter fantasy score, but we got a bump recently, I guess, because he's at 8.5 now. So certainly a high number, and 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. So 2 bumps there. Vlad at 8.5 hitter fantasy score. I don't mind either one of those options. I like Vlad a little bit more when it comes to total bases because of how many singles he's been hitting. He could definitely hit that in like 2 hits. So I like 1.5 total bases for Vlad. I like the Bo Bichette fantasy score a little bit less now, but when I was on stream is at 7.5, and I wrote that up as a play, and I'll keep that as a play too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like 8.5. That's really high.
All of the big power hitters for Toronto, basically the top half of the order, all have 1.5 total base numbers on underdog. So that's something we'd probably want Vlad on. I don't mind Springer there either. For Chapman, that's probably better for him, considering he doesn't, that the fantasy number wouldn't be as high there. You can still get that and still miss the fantasy score. I don't know. I think that you can run with whatever you kind of want to there. They even have Varsho at 8.5
Jared,
fantasy too.
I
What's
don't
up?
want to interrupt you, but
Oh, did Adley do it? Adley
talk
did it.
about a huge fucking home run. Let's fucking go, baby. I
That's
was
the
really
prize
worried.
split.
We'll let people behind the curtain here a little bit. We talked about what we should do for the bonus play today, and you had Mountcastle as the play early on, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not all that excited about Mountcastle. Let's go Adley instead. And it almost looked like I screwed the pick or screwed the slip altogether. But happy Adley came through in the end for us there. That was awesome to watch because I saw on my phone the Orioles beat reporter say walk it off Adley, and I was watching the game on the side here, and I was like, oh, he hasn't walked it off yet. He must be just like encouraging him. But then I saw him hit the home run, and that was sweet. That's a good way to cash the 2 pick for prize picks for sure.
Love it. Walk off home run. Yeah, of course the theatrics. I know.
Yeah, it makes it dramatic for us.
Three times today. Almost.
I
hit a home
know.
run, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, that's great. It makes me feel better about everything.
Hell yeah.
All right, now we can go ahead and focus back on this Toronto team. I was in the middle of saying they just gave Varsho 8.5 fantasy. I mean, all these numbers are sky high, so I think that you can probably just rely on the total bases number on underdog. And if you're playing on prize picks, maybe like finding hits, runs, RBIs could seem like the way to go here, depending on this. But I think, Vlad, like total bases, seems to be the better play. Hitter fantasy score for Springer seems to be more of a better play. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this offense is all just really good, so you have to kind of just run with this team as much as you can.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. All right, I think we've talked about Blue Jays enough. Let's move on. Let's talk about this next game.
Next game, let's go ahead and focus on the Pittsburgh Pirates and St. Louis Cardinals. Right now, the Pirates are plus 225 on the road behind Vince Velasquez. Jordan Montgomery for the Cardinals minus 275 at home. 8.5 is the total here. And, we talked about Toronto being one of the best stacks, if not the top overall stack. Man, this could be. If there's any team that's going to put up some massive runs today, it could be the St. Louis Cardinals team if we're not talking about Blue Jays. We know how bad Vince Velasquez is to both-handedness. I don't even know if it's necessarily a reverse splits kind of conversation, but dating back to last year, the xFIP is almost 8. This season it's almost 8. Last season it's still bad. It's over 5. And we know that he's not really going to strike anybody out. We know that he's not really going to get any swings and misses. The walk rate's incredibly high this year to lefties, and we're going to get quite a few of them in this lineup today. And the hard contact is just pretty massive, and he's not going to get any guys in ground ball trouble. So I think that, as much as we love the spot for the Blue Jays, the spot for the Cardinals is fantastic.
I think it's good. I think I still rank the Blue Jays higher for sure, but this is probably your number 2 stack here. It's a good one. The problem is like I only really want lefties. Righties are good too. I think they're solid. Goldie has some BVP numbers. Nolan has some BVP. I'm talking to the king of BVP over here, so you should know this already. But Goldie and Arenado both have BVP numbers. Tyler O'Neill has some nutty BVP. O'Neill. Yeah, 3 for 4 with 2 home runs. I mean, low sample size, but it's fun to talk about. I don't mind any of these guys. I think it's a good stack here, and you should have the money to do it with Matone. And I think probably the way you go about it is you can go 3-3-1-1 with Matone, Edward as your one-offs, and then 3-man stack heavy St. Louis hitters and 3-man stack heavy Toronto hitters, and that might be the build.
Right. exactly. Like it's not that hard today. It's very cookie cutter approach type of situation. Uh, just go with the best. I think the biggest thing, right, is just getting the right bats. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, yeah, I'm pumped about Adley, dude. Now I'm forced to buy a jersey.
Hell
So,
yeah.
all right, yeah. The Tyler O'Neill spot's really nice. I believe we just got this Cardinals lineup too, so I'd be curious to see where he actually came in because I think that he was projected 6. Um, like just right off the bat there. I mean, I feel like people will not play him because of where he's at in the lineup today. But yeah, I think that you can take a look at pretty much whoever you want here, honestly. Um, yeah, O'Neill got 7 hole actually, so that's even lower than I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything looks really good. I'm not going to be a stickler about Cardinals.
Yeah, same. I think Cardinals are solid, and you definitely should get some exposure today.
All right. Does O'Neill being at yeah, I guess decent DFS question here. Does O'Neill being 2,400 entice you getting exposure there versus like a leadoff guy for a team that's not as good?
Yeah, I think in tournaments it's a great pivot. You know, a lot of people will play Matone and Eduardo or Eduard, but instead of going to either one of those guys, why not just go to the guy who has some tremendous upside power, coming off of a really solid series in cores where he homered twice, and if he's seeing the ball that well, then maybe he can do what he's done already against Vince Velasquez and hit another home run. So I definitely don't mind it being a pivot spot. In terms of cash, I would say stay away, but in terms of
Yeah.
GPPs, all guns ablazing there. I can get behind it.
That conversation only applies to FanDuel, DraftKings. Tyler O'Neill's priced up, and the other guys are min-priced, so it's not as much in play there. But yeah, I think you can get behind pretty much everything. Like I even like Jordan Walker too. Now we'd like him against lefties a little bit more, but the dude's showing some extreme upside right now. So I think that you can go and do that as well. But yeah, when it comes down to playing Lodolo with, let's say, Goldschmidt, Arenado, you got to make choices on Springer, Bichette, and Vlad, even Chapman. You can only get probably 2 of those guys and feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if you can get 2. You might be limited to 1 out of like all the
Well,
4K guys. So
it
you kind.
forces you to roster Romatone today, if
What do
not
you mean?
both.
Well, I'm
Like,
saying I'm playing around with it on the side here. Even with Eduard and Matone, I have Bichette in, Varsho in, and Burleson, and I have 3,000 left per player, 3,100 left per player. So you're still a little bit tight
yeah,
uh, on salary, just a little bit. I don't know. There might need to be another savings guy in there. A guy like Nolan Gorman is a guy who I really like. That's at 2,400. Or sorry, no, he's not at 2,400. I got that confused with O'Neill. Maybe you throw O'Neill in there and make that one of your Cardinals bats today, and that's how you kind
yeah.
of get around this pricing stuff.
Or maybe what people do is they don't play Lodolo and they play Chris Bassett as their SP1.
Oh, if they do that, that's just silly.
I
That
mean,
would be a silly
some
move.
people may do it.
Yeah, no, I would welcome them to do exactly that, and hope that and know that it'll work out well for RotoRadar.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about the spot for Jordan Montgomery. You know, most of the time I'd be pretty intrigued here. With Jordan Montgomery, I think he's got pretty sneaky upside compared to, kind of like along the same lines of what he brought to the table last year when he got traded to this team. The xFIP for this season, 4.35. The K rate looks really good to righties. Ground ball stuff solid. But he's going to get pretty much outside of G-Man Choi, what it looks like here is to be 8 righties today. So I can confirm that. Do we have the Pirates lineup here? I don't think
Not
we do
sure.
yet.
I don't think we do.
Nope, I think it's like the only team we don't have. So depending on what they bring out, I would assume it's super righty heavy, especially with O'Neill Cruz hurt. So yeah, I think that the spot itself could end up not working out for him. But I guess like in terms of quality arms on this slate, you have to at least throw his name out there.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say. You know, when it comes to a pivot off of a Lodolo, I think Montgomery might give you your best option. It's a good stadium to be pitching in. St. Louis is one of the more pitcher-friendly stadiums in all of baseball. If he gets a pitcher's ump, you could see some things maybe working his way in terms of the strikeouts. I don't mind Montgomery. He's had a really good start to the year. He's been good so far, so I can get behind it. Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's good enough for cash games, but I think it's good enough for GPPs. That's for sure.
Right. Another guy that I think that, the SP2 conversation may be a little bit more spread out than we're making it to be, or it might not, and they all load up on Bassett. So I'm not really sure exactly, but this pitching slate, like we mentioned, is just not good. So I do think that, at least, as much as Montgomery may have it as well, like just the opportunity here, I also could see myself rostering a guy like maybe Brian Reynolds at the top of this lineup today for how hot he's been this season. I think he has. There's something I sent to you earlier this week, and I think he has the second highest total barreled balls on the season. Yeah, which is insane. The start for him has been pretty amazing. So I wouldn't mind playing a guy like him either.
If only my Yankees traded for him before the season instead of like we're going to do mid-season because he's destined to be a Yankee because he's a Pirate. So sooner or later he'll be over with us.
Yeah. I like the spot for him. I think that outside of that, I'm not as excited about anything else, honestly. So I think it could be just Brian Reynolds or bust.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Let's focus the conversation now over to the prop side of things. We'll have a lot of Cardinals to talk about. I actually just want to throw Reynolds out there before we even start talking about that. Yeah, his hitter fantasy score is at 6.5. Like, I think that's in play with how much that he gets on base. So
sure.
I'm okay with that. Outside of that, though, I think that you can talk about plenty of Cardinals here. You're not going to get the best props for some of these guys. Like, some of them just have runs. But I think that 1.5 total bases for Arenado makes sense. I think that Goldschmidt's fantasy score is low enough to where that makes sense. Like, we were just seeing these guys at 9-10 in the Coors games. Tyler O'Neill hits, runs, RBIs, makes a lot of sense at 1.5. Anything else stand out to you there? Maybe a Jordan Montgomery fantasy score?
No, I really wanted lefties in this, so like I get disappointed by just run props. Someone told me that they got Nolan Gorman at a half a base, which is nutty. It's not up there anymore. They took it down. If they happen to put it back up before the start of the game, bet on that. That's probably the only one that I really like, though. And I guess the Tyler O'Neill one's okay too.
Underdog has nothing. Yeah, well, 10.5 fantasy for Paul Goldschmidt's a lot, but lots of single stuff. So
of course,
we'll take that as it comes. Yeah, the St. Louis team though is going to be in an awesome spot. I would say in tournaments you have the opportunity to full stack this team if you'd like, but it does feel like cash. It's very imperative that you go 3-3 with St. Louis and Toronto.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Would there ever be a shot? Now we have to go and talk about the San Diego Padres, but would there be a shot at running something in cash where you just go 4-4 with Lodolo?
I don't think you'd have the money for it is the main problem. I think you need those Matone and Edward one-offs to end up affording these games.
Yep. Okay. San Diego and Milwaukee is the last game on the slate right now. The Brewers are coming in as a plus 132 underdog here. Padres minus 156. Totals at 9 here for a game in Petco. That's really, really high. We got, earlier today we had Bryce Wilson as the starting pitcher. FanDuel Sportsbook right now has a TBD here. Am I looking at this wrong, or is it Bryce Wilson?
I thought it was Bryce Wilson. I might be wrong. I don't know.
I think it still is, but let me just refresh here. Might have just been a while on this page.
I don't know. It's weird that they're.
No, it's still TBD.
It's weird that you guys are pitching all the sucky pitchers now. You pitch Junk one day, then Bryce Wilson the next.
So what happened was that what's his face? Aaron Ashby got hurt. So now we're forced to roster the terrible guys. I don't even like Bryce Wilson on this team. You might as well just throw out a reliever and have a bullpen game. But yeah, that's going to really impact what San Diego brings to the table today. An implied total of 5. And this is going to be a spot where I think this is your third team. We talked about the Reds being an option. We talked about the Yankees being an option. I think that the Padres are a little bit higher than that today.
Yeah, I I think I'd rather have other spots other than this Padres stack, other than any of these stacks. One guy I do like is Xander. I think there is some upside there. He's been very reverse splits
BVP.
this year. I didn't even know about the BVP, but glad to know
It's
about it.
small. It's small, but it's there.
Yeah. I like the Xander spot. That's probably the only thing, though. I mean, I can't really get behind the rest of this team, especially in Petco. This isn't Petco, is it? What is this now? Is it Petco?
I
I
think
don't
it is.
know. In this Padres park, very, very, very pitcher friendly. So going to be hard to target bats here. I think you just have better options elsewhere on the slate.
Yeah, there definitely are better options. I also just know that Bryce Wilson's bad. I don't know. Maybe Milwaukee takes him out early, and there's little damage done here. Um, in games totaling 9, I think that we favor the other ones over this one. But it is intriguing that they would give it that number today. Anyway, though, let's talk about this Padres side because I want to talk about Nick Martinez going up against the Brewers here. Over the last calendar year, we've seen Nick Martinez with an xFIP around 4.5 here this season. It's at 5.42. The ground ball stuff really working for him. The strikeout stuff a little bit down from last year. Obviously, small sample size. Hard contact definitely helps with the park that he pitches in. But I think that this is going to be a situation where I'm not interested in Brewers, but is Nick Martinez going to be a guy you can rely on at any facet here?
No, absolutely not. No, thank you. I thought you were actually going to recommend some Milwaukee bats, but I think I'd say no to both.
Yeah, I think they're a little. I know they had a good game against one good game against the Diamondbacks, but I feel like they've cooled off a little bit from what they were doing like a week ago. So
I could see with the fact that Yelich and Winker have done such a good job of elevating the ball this year, maybe they do well in this spot. I don't know. It's nothing for me to attack in DFS. I hate Nick Martinez, and I think he's a pretty bad pitcher. But I know the ground ball stuff is good enough to where I stay away from bats against him. So
yeah,
happy to just stay away.
yeah, that's something that I'm also kind of confused at because this season, I mean, like last season, this Brewers team, a lot of these guys specifically. I mean, Contreras has it this year and last year. Yelich, the ground ball numbers are way down, and that's kind of to your point of him being able to elevate the ball a little bit more this year after the back injury. But maybe we can look at guys that aren't hitting the ball on the ground this year that we know don't normally do it. Those guys being the 2, 3, 4 in Winker, Adames, and Tellez. Like maybe those guys are able to do it. Not something I'll probably go out of my way for though today.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I don't think it's anything you need to go out of your way for. So why, when you have your stack so set today, why? And unless you're like going tournament based, which we mentioned their tournament upside, but in terms of cash, there's a very clear line of thinking today, like I mentioned beforehand.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Also, not the best tournament idea to play this game where there's the worst park factor on the slate. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Props for this game. I don't have much to say here. Do we have any fantasy numbers that are low enough to where we can get something done?
No, not
Yelich,
really.
7.5. Not really. Adames is interesting at 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. But again, interesting is the only real word there. Xander's fantasy score is 8.5. I'd rather take an 8.5 with somebody else.
I don't know if you watched my stream today, Jared, but I talked about Bogarts under a half a strikeout. If Wilson is the pitcher, he's a bad strikeout pitcher. Bogarts has only struck out like less than 20% against righties this year. Now we don't know. Now it's just kind of up in the air if it's going to happen or not because you guys could go reliever heavy and then the play is kind of screwed. But
that would scare me.
Yeah, that's I guess where I get screwed. I got the Bichette number early and got it at 7.5, but I get screwed on the Bogarts prop, so it is what it is.
Just to put this in here as well, MLB.com probable pitchers doesn't have anything for the Brewers, so
that sucks.
Pretty up in the air at this point of the day. I know it's a late game, but this is very late for baseball.
Yeah, for sure, definitely is. We'll have to see who starts there, but yeah, I think we're all good. I'm not going to take any props for this Padres team. I would be interested in some Padres, maybe like the Bogarts 8.5 fantasy score would be good. But now that this is all up in the air, I don't know. We don't really know what's going to happen, so we kind of just got to wait and see if we're going to do anything here.
Yep, agreed. I think this late game is a complete stay away.
I would agree.
All right, that's it. It's a 5-game slate.
That's it.
Didn't bring it up earlier, but the lock time for FanDuel and DraftKings is at 6:40. And considering that Lodolo is one of the most important pieces to the slate, you need to be able to be on top of that today. So,
yes, sir.
Props for us, most likely going to come out, very soon here. I know it's still early, but we pretty much have it all outlined for us today. What would be the case if what would elevate the San Diego spot? I guess we'd have to kind of figure out what, let's just say the Brewers roll out somebody that I don't even know if they can, because they're not going to bring up anybody in the start of the rotation, and if they're going to do anything, it might just be a bullpen game if Bryce Wilson's not the pitcher. So maybe it's just chalked.
Maybe they pitch Jason Junk again. That's where we go all in on the Padres.
Give me Yelich on the mound instead.
Yeah, you'd probably be better off, even if you're risking that back injury all over. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna just have to wait on the Padres stuff. The problem is, I think anything is a downgrade if it's not Bryce Wilson today.
Yeah,
I think that's safe to assume. But we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll kind of adjust if we need to. But I don't think you need to adjust. It's Petco. It's a very pitcher-friendly park, so it already wasn't as good of a spot as the Cardinals or Blue Jays are in, and that's kind of the spots that we're on today. So looking to have a good day, man. Looking to have a great day. Feel really good and feel like we're getting a lot of the calls right, and I have a good feeling that it's going to translate to wins tonight. So let's do exactly that. Jared, any other final thoughts? If not, let's get out of here, man.
No, very straightforward slate. We're back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern with massive 12-gamer. And, I think you just take the time today, get those lineups in, get those entries in for the really, really solid spots on Toronto and St. Louis, and enjoy your night.
Yes, sir. Exactly. All right. Thank you all for listening. And as always, my name is Joshua Riemer. Good night and good skill.